Hello friends, welcome back to English Single channel. In this video, we are going to discuss the notes of your poem because I could not stop for days. So if you haven't gone through my previous video where I have analyzed this poem line by line, so I would suggest you please go to that video. After watching that, you can come here. So let's get started. So before going into our notes, we should know about our author. As you know, it's written by Emily Dickinson, an American poetess. So Emily Dickinson was an American poet known for her unique and revolutionary approach to poetry. He was sorry, she was born in Amherst, Massachusetts ରେ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇଥିଲେ. She lived most of her life in isolation. ଯେମିତିକି ତୁମକୁ ଆଗରୁ କହି ରଖିଛି ଏମିଲି ଡେକିନସନ୍ ଏକୁଟିଆ ରହିବାକୁ ଭଲ ପାଉଥିଲେ, ବାହାରେ କାହା ସହିତ ମିଶୁ ନଥିଲେ. ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ୍ ଟାଇମ୍ ତାଙ୍କ ଲାଇଫ୍ର ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ଘର ଭିତରେ ହିଁ ବିତେଇଛନ୍ତି. So she rarely leaving her home, which allowed her to focus deeply on her writing. ତେଣୁ ସେ ବହୁତ ସାରା ପୋଏମ୍ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଯେହେତୁ ଏକୁଟିଆ ରହିଲେ କ'ଣ କରିବେ. So although she wrote nearly about 1800 poems, only a few were published during her lifetime. ପାଖାପାଖି 10ଟି ଖଣ୍ଡେ ପୋଏମ୍ ତାଙ୍କର ସେ ବଞ୍ଚିଥିଲା ଅବସ୍ଥାରେ ପବ୍ଲିଶ ହେଇଥିଲା ଆଉ ସବୁ ଗୁଡ଼ାକ ତାଙ୍କର ଡେଥ୍ ପରେ ହିଁ ପବ୍ଲିଶ ପାଇଛି. And those were often edited to fit conventional norms. Dickinson's poetry is known for its brevity, unconventional punctuation, and intense focus on themes like death, nature, immortality, and the self. Her works often delve into the complexities of life and existence. ସବୁବେଳେ ସେ ଲାଇଫ୍ ଉପରେ ମୋର୍ଟାଲିଟି ଉପରେ ଲେଖୁଥିଲେ. Displaying a deep emotional and intellectual range, some of her most important and influential works include ତାଙ୍କର important works ଆମେ କିଛି discuss କରିବା. So these are because I could not stop for days. It is the first most popular poem that we are going to discuss today. The second one was I Felt a Funeral in My Brain. It was also about mental turmoil and the sensation of losing control over one's thought. Another important poem written by her, Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Both short poem ta, bhala poem ta. It's a metaphysical poem about hope, comparing it to a bird that perches in the soul, providing comfort even in the toughest time. Uh, I am nobody, who are you? A poem on identity, questioning the nature of fame, and celebrating the value of privacy. Next important poem, The Soul Selects Her Own Society. It reflects Dickinson's preference for solitude and individuality over social expectation. Wild Nights, a passionate, vivid poem that longing and the desire for freedom. Much madness is the divinest sense. Dickinson critiques the way society labels non-conformity as madness, suggesting that true wisdom often lies in the madness of individuality. I heard a fly buzz when I died. It's a poem about the moment of death. ପ୍ରାୟ ତାଙ୍କ ପୋଏମ୍ରେ ତମାନେ ପାଇବ death ଉପରେ, focusing on quiet, mundane details of life, even in such a profound experience. So, Emily Dickinson's innovative style and use of language and ability to express complex emotions in simple yet profound yet powerful ways have made her one of the most influential figures in American poetry. Background of the poem चलो discuss करिबा. I Could Not Stop for Death is one of Emily Dickinson's most famous and widely analyzed poems. Written in 19th century, it reflects Dickinson's ongoing contemplation of death. Contemplation ମାନେ କ'ଣ? ଏକାଗ୍ରତା ବା ଗୋଟେ ବିଷୟରେ ମେଡିଟେଟ୍ କରିବାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତି contemplation. Like ସେ death ଉପରେ କେତେ ଗଭୀର contemplate କରିଛନ୍ତି, because ସମସ୍ତେ ଭାବନ୍ତି dead is something fearful, this is something terrified, ସମସ୍ତେ ଭୟଭୀତ ହୁଅନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ମୃତ୍ୟୁକୁ ଏଠି ଏତେ kind man ଭଳିଆ ଏତେ civility ସହିତ compare କରିଛନ୍ତି, that is it's not a normal type of writing. So immortality ବିଷୟରେ and also it's about passage of time. The poem is notable for its calm, almost serene tone, as the speaker describes being visited by death, personified as a gentle companion. ତେଣୁ ଡେଥ୍ କୁ ଆମେ ଏଠି ଏତେ ଦେଖାଯାଏନି as a furious thing, but ଏଠି ଡେଥ୍ ହେଉଛି ଜଣେ gentle companion, gentle friend. So କାହିଁକି ଏମିତି ସେ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି? The background of the poem can be seen through the lens of Dickens' own life, which was marked by frequent thoughts on death. She lived in a relative isolation, तुमको କହିଥିଲି ସେ ସବୁବେଳେ ଏକୁଟିଆ ରହୁଥିଲେ, so often contemplating the nature of life and death. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଲୋକ ଏକୁଟିଆ ରୁହେ ସବୁବେଳେ ତା ମାଇଣ୍ଡକୁ ଏସବୁ ଏଇଭଳିଆ thoughts ହିଁ ଆସେ. So many of her poems explore themes of mortality. I could not stop for death imagines death not as a sudden or violent force, as it courteous visitor, ଅତି ଭଦ୍ର ଲୋକ, ଅତି gentleman, who arrives at the speaker's doorstep, ଯେ କି ଆସିକି ପହଞ୍ଚିଛି ଆମର ଲେଖକଙ୍କର ଘର ସାମ୍ନାରେ, patiently waiting for her, ଏବଂ ଧୈର୍ଯ୍ୟର ସହିତ ଅପେକ୍ଷା କରିଛି କି ଏ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ. ତାମାନେ poemର title କ'ଣ? I could not stop for death. ମୁଁ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ପାଇଁ ଅପେକ୍ଷା କରିପାରିଲିନି because I was busy in my daily work. I was very occupied in my work that the death stopped at me. ବୁଝିହେଲା? ତ main themes କ'ଣ? The main themes of I could not stop for death are death and immortality. ତ କ'ଣ ଏଇଟା? The central theme of the poem is the personification of death. तो death को एठी personify କରାଯାଇଛି. ତାମାନେ death ଏଠି ଜଣେ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି ବିଶେଷ ଭଳିଆ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖାଯାଇଛି. Death is depicted not as a frightening or abrupt event. ସେ frightening ନୁହେଁ, ଭୟ କରିବାର କୌଣସି କଥା ନାହିଁ, but as a courteous, ଜଣେ gentleman. It's an inevitable companion who arrives gently, ଯେ କି ଅତି ଭଦ୍ର ଭାବରେ ଆସି ପହଞ୍ଚିଛି, to take the speaker, ବକ୍ତା ବା ଆମର ଲେଖକଙ୍କୁ ନେବା ପାଇଁ, କୋଉଠିକି ନେବା ପାଇଁ? On a journey toward eternity. ଇଟର୍ନିଟି ମାନେ ଅନନ୍ତ କାଳକୁ ନେବା ପାଇଁ ସେ ଆସିକି ପହଞ୍ଚିଛି. The poem suggests that death is a natural part of life and it leads to immortality. ତେଣୁ death ମାନେ ନୁହେଁ ଯେ it's the end of life. Death means it's the beginning. ଏଇଠୁ ହିଁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହବ କୋଉଠିକି? ଅନନ୍ତ କାଳକୁ ଯାତ୍ରା. So the passage of time, second important theme. Throughout the poem, there is an emphasis on the passage of time. The speaker reflects on the stages of life, symbolized by the scenes of carriage passes, a school, a grain field, the setting sun. ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ କ୍ୟାରେଜରେ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି କ'ଣ କ'ଣ କ୍ରସ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି? ସ୍କୁଲ କ୍ରସ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ସ୍କୁଲ ମିନ୍ସ ଚାଇଲ୍ଡହୁଡ୍ କ୍ରସ୍ କଲେ, ଗ୍ରେନ୍ ଫିଲ୍ଡ ମିନ୍ସ ମ୍ୟାଚ୍ୟୁର୍ଡ ବା ଆଡଲ୍ଟହୁଡ୍ ପାସ୍ କଲେ, ଦେନ୍ ସେଟିଂ ସନ୍ ମିନ୍ସ ଓଲ୍ଡ ଏଜ୍ ବା ଆଫ୍ଟର ଟୁ ଡେଥ୍. এই ସବୁ ଅବସ୍ଥା ମଣିଷ ଜୀବନରେ ଆସିଥାଏ. So these images represent different phases of life from childhood to maturity and ultimately to death. Then important କ'ଣ? Life's transience, that means life is fleeting, life is not eternal. ମାନେ life ହେଉଛି ମରଣଶୀଳ, ବଦଳିଯାଏ ଆମ life. କେମିତି ବଦଳିଯାଏ? Transient nature of life. How? The passing images represent the fleeting moments of life, suggesting that everything in life is temporary. Nothing is eternal, nothing is long lasting. If someone is born, then she or he has to die, and it's inevitable conclusion of the passage. Got it? The afterlife, ପରଜନ୍ମ କଥା କ'ଣ କୁହାଯାଇଛି? The poem also alludes to the idea of an afterlife. କେତେବେଳେ କୁହାଯାଇଛି? The journey with the death leads to the speaker to a house, which can be interpreted as a metaphor for the grave or afterlife. The speaker's journey reflects the idea of continuity beyond death, suggesting that death is not an end but a transition to another existence. କାହିଁକି? ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମ ପାଖକୁ ଗାଡ଼ି ଆସେ, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଯାତ୍ରା କରୁ, ଡେଥ୍ ହେଇଛି ମାନେ ସବୁ କିଛି ସରିଯାଇଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଠାରେ କବୟିତ୍ରୀ କହିଛନ୍ତି ଏଇଠୁ ଜାଣ ଆରମ୍ଭ. କୋଉ ଯାତ୍ରା? କାହିଁକି ନା ତାଙ୍କ କ୍ୟାରେଜରେ କିଏ ଯାଇଛି? ଡେଥ୍ ଯାଇଛି, ଇମୋର୍ଟାଲିଟି ଯାଇଛି, ଆଉ ରାଇଟର ଯାଇଛନ୍ତି. ତ ଇମୋର୍ଟାଲିଟି ମିନ୍ସ କ'ଣ? ତାଙ୍କ ସୋଲ୍ ଯୋଉଟା ହେଉଛି ଇମୋର୍ଟାଲ, ଯିଏକି ଆମ ଆଫ୍ଟର ଲାଇଫରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଏକ୍ଜିଷ୍ଟ କରେ. Then personification of death. One of the most striking features of the poem is the way Dickinson personifies death. Rather than a fearful, tragic force, death is depicted as a kind and patient figure who takes the speaker on a calm ride toward eternity. So this portrayal challenges conventional views of death and invites readers to see it as an inevitable, almost peaceful part of life. Literary device କ'ଣ यूज ହେଇଛି ଚାଲ ଦେଖିବା. Literary device, several literary device used. So first one is personification. As you know, death is personified as a courteous means gentle, and a patient driver who kindly stopped for me. First line ରେ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି I could not stop for death but death stopped me. ଏମିତି କିଛି ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ନା. So this device helps to transfer death into a more approachable, almost gentle figure, contrasting with traditional views of death as something frightening or abrupt. ଆମେ ସବୁବେଳେ ଭାବୁ ଆମେ ସବୁବେଳେ ସବୁ ରାଇଟର ମାନେ ଲେଖନ୍ତି କି death is something frightening, death is something terrified, but ଏଠି ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି death is a gentle companion. Imagery कौन कौन यूज ହେଇଛି? The poem uses vivid imagery to depict the journey towards death. कौन कौन यूज ହେଇଛି? School, grain, setting sun. So these images symbolize different stages of life from childhood to maturity, old age, and which help to convey the passage of time. Symbolism, ଏଠି carriage ଟା ହଉଛି symbol ହିସାବରେ use ହେଇଛି. Here the carriage represents the journey from life to death, while the scenes they pass school, grain, sunset symbolize the different phases of life. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ symbol use ହେଇଛି house. କଣ ପାଇଁ? At the end of the poem it can be interpreted as a metaphor for the grave or afterlife. Metaphor कौन? Death itself is a metaphor for the inevitable passage into the afterlife. The entire journey in the carriage is a metaphor for the experience of dying, with the speaker moving from known world to the unknown. Alliteration कौन? Alliteration means consonant word जदि बारंबार यूज है ताको alliteration कहती. तो Dickinson uses repetition of consonant sound to create rhythm and emphasize certain parts of the poem. We passed the school where children strove. देखो past school strove ଏଠି कौन यूज ହେଇଛି? S word टा यूज ହେଇଛି. So uses the repetition of the S sound add a musical quality to the line. Rhythm, rhyme scheme meter. The poem follows the regular ABCD. ତମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପଢିବ ଦେଖିବ second four repeat होतिबो बा rhyming होतिबो, and uses a quatrain which gives a rhythmic and formal structure. The consistent rhythm mimics the movement and the carriage and creates a sense of inevitability mirroring the journey toward death. केजुरा कौन जानछ ना नहीं? केजुरा मीन्स प्रति लाइन परे डिकिन्सन गोटे गोटे हाइफेन देइछंती, तो सेटा होची केजुरा. सो डिकिन्सन ऑफन यूजेस डैशेस गोटे लेखा हाइफेन देइछंती टू क्रिएट पॉजेस विद इन द लाइन्स. प्रति लाइन परे से टिके डैश देइछंती. सेटा गोटे तांकर ओन स्टाइल ऑफ राइटिंग. दिस डिवाइस स्लोज द पेस and allows for reflection, making the reader to pause and think about the significance of the words. प्रति line पढ़ी सारी देखिए गोटे हाइफेन देइतो. That means we need to pause for a moment and contemplate into the world that the poet wanted to show us. So as well as the contributing to the poem's introspective tone. So these literary devices help Dickinson express complex ideas about death, the passage of time, and the afterlife, all while creating a haunting and reflective mood in the poem. तापरे चलो summary देखिबा. I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson is a meditation on mortality, personifying death as a gentle and patient figure who comes to escort the speaker from life into afterlife. The poem presents a journey symbolizing the passage of life and the inevitable approach of death. Sorry, एटी दिथर summary लिखा ही जाइछि. ठीक अछि. So केमती आरंभ होइछि पोएट्री टा हमरो? The speaker begins by stating that she could not stop for death. फास्ट लाइन रे ही कहिचंती मु मृत्यु पई अटकी पारलानी, मु एते व्यस्त थिली, केही भी भाबंतिनी मृत्यु कथा. हम कि नै? जदियो आमे समस्त जानि जे दिने न दिने मृत्यु आसीबो, बट दैट डेथ काइंडली स्टॉप फॉर हर. किंतु मृत्यु जे सी आसिकी काइंडली अति दयालु हेकी मो पई आसिकी से रहिला. This introduces the idea of death is not as a sudden or violent force. मैंने से हठात आसिलानी, violent ही आसिकी लेखकों को नहीं गलानी, से धीरे सुस्ते आसिला, but as a courteous companion, गोटे gentleman भलिया जने भलो बंधु हिसाब रे से आसिला. Death arrives at the speaker's door. से तांको कवाट बंध द्वार बंध पाखरे पहुंचिला. Offering कौन ऑफर कला? A calm measured approach to the end of life. The speaker is joined by two other figures. तांको सहित आउ किए थिले? Immortality थिला who rides along with them in the carriage. Death थिला, immortality थिला, आउ speaker थिले. Here immortality means a soul जे कि हमर death परे भी exist करे. बुझ परलो? So the tone is calm and accepting rather than a fearful or sorrowful. तेनु death पई एटी sorrowful tone नहीं, बहुत calm tone रे, बहुत gentle way रे मृत्यु आसी कि तांको पई अटकिछि. किए लिखिछंती? डिकिन्सन हमरो कहिछंती. सो As the carriage moves forward, they pass different scenes that symbolize different various stages of life. The first କଣ ଆସିଲା the school, ତାପରେ the grain field, ତାପରେ the setting sun. The school ମାନେ କଣ the first stop they pass is a school. ତାଙ୍କର first stop ପଡିଲା school. School ମାନେ କଣ କରୁଥିଲେ? Children are at play. Children means full of energy. ଆମର childhood stage କୁ ଦେଖେଇଲା, symbolizing childhood. The speaker reflects on the earlier stage of life which is far behind her. ଯାହାକୁ କି ସେ ଅନେକ ଦୂରରୁ ଛାଡିକି ଆସି ଯାଇଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ବାଲ୍ୟାବସ୍ଥା। ବାଲ୍ୟାବସ୍ଥା ପରେ ଯୌବନ ଆସିବ, ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଯୌବନ ଅବସ୍ଥା ମାନେ କଣ, ସେଇ ଅବସ୍ଥା ହଉଛି ଆମର maturity age। ତ maturity age କଣ? The grain fields. Next they pass a field of grain which symbolizes adulthood, the time when one works and contributes to the life cycles. The third one is setting sun, অস্তগামী সূর্য. Then they encounter the setting sun which represents the old age and the inevitable decline toward death. ମାନେ old age କୁ ଦେଖେଇଲା ବା approaching towards death। ତାପରେ କଣ ହେଇଛି? The journey continues, and as the speaker reflects on this stage, she becomes aware of her transition from life to death. ତେଣୁ ସେ ଜାଣିପାରୁଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କ ଲାଇଫରେ କେତେ ଫ୍ଲିଟିଂ ହେଇଛି, ଟ୍ରାନଜିସନ ହେଇଛି କଣ ତାଙ୍କର ଲାଇଫ ଟୁ ଡେଥ୍ କୁ। The poem ends with a description of the house. Finally ସେ ଗୋଟେ ଘର ପାଖରେ ପହଞ୍ଚିଛନ୍ତି। କୋଉ ଭଳିଆ ଘର? Which symbolizes the grave. metaphor use ହେଇଛି but it's actually a grave. The speaker notes that it has been centuries since her death. ଲେଖକଙ୍କୁ ଏମିତି ପ୍ରତୀତ ହେଇଛି ସତେ ଯେମିତି ୟା ଭିତରେ ଶତାବ୍ଦୀ ଶତାବ୍ଦୀ ବିତିଗଲାଣି, ଶହ ଶହ ବର୍ଷ ବିତିଗଲାଣି। But it feels shorter than a day. ତଥାପି ଏମିତି ମନେ ହେଉଛି ବୋଧହୁଏ ଏଇ ଶହ ଶହ ବର୍ଷ ଗୋଟେ ସିଙ୍ଗଲ ଡେ, suggesting that time is irrelevant in the afterlife. ତେଣୁ after life ରେ ଟାଇମର କିଛି ମୂଲ୍ୟ ନଥାଏ, କାହିଁକି ନା ଅନନ୍ତ କାଳକୁ ସେମାନେ ଗତି କରୁଛନ୍ତି। And the experience of death is timeless. It's beyond time limit. So the speaker realizes that although she was unaware of death's inevitability, while alive, it was always present, guiding her gently through life and leading her to her final resting place. Conclusion କଣ? The poem's calm tone and personification of death as kind, a patient figure offer a unique perspective on death. Rather than depicting death as something to be feared, Dickinson presents it as a natural, inevitable part of existence. So the carriage ride symbolizes the transition from life to death, and the passing scenes depict different stages of life, reminding the reader of life's fleeting nature. The house represents grave, suggesting that death is merely transition to another form of existence. So overall, I could not stop for death explores themes of mortality, the passage of time, and acceptance of death as a part of the life cycle. We have to accept that जातस्य ध्रुव मृत्यु, जे जन्म ହେଇଛି ତା ପାଇଁ ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ। So it challenges conventional ideas of death as an abrupt end, instead presenting it as a continuous journey from life to eternity ବା ଅନନ୍ତ କାଳ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଯାତ୍ରା। ତ ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି ତୁମମାନଙ୍କୁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଭଲ ଲାଗିଥିବ ଏଇ ପୋଏମଟି। So and I would like to request all of you, please give your opinions, give your reviews on comments. So thank you. Good time.